This lesson is on estimating sums. So estimating is just like the same thing as rounding, okay? So when we worked on rounding in the first chapter this year, it's the same thing where you underline and you think, is the number, if it's 5 or more, raise the score, 6 or less, let it rest, okay? So sums, remember, is the answer to a what kind of problem? Oh yeah, that's right. Sum equals an addition problem. So we are going to be basically rounding numbers before we add them together and come up with their answers, okay? So the first problem we're going to do is 342, and this is in your book on page 87, so you can do it along with me. 382 plus 637, okay? And they want to find out about, in the story problem it says a board shop sold 342 snowboards and 637 pairs of boots last year. About how many snowboards and pairs of boots did they sell altogether? So those are the kind of words we always want to look for when we're thinking about rounding. If we're going to round, in story problems, we're going to see the word estimate or an estimate, okay? And we're also going to see in that story problem, we heard it, the word about. If the word says about, that means that we are going to round. If it says to estimate about how many are doing something, then we're going to round, okay? Those words they all mean the same thing. So if you hear those, that's what you want to do. So in this problem, we're going to round to the nearest hundreds place. I always like to underline my place value when I'm going to round it. So I'm going to underline my 3 and underline my 6. And I'm just going to move these problems right over to the side. So in your book, it has some blue boxes over there that you can fill in. So we'll make those here. So it kind of looks the same. So they have 2 blue boxes. Mine are purple, with an addition sign and then an answer at the bottom, okay? So if we look at our 3 and look back, see if you can do it before me, write it in the box before I do it, but if I look back, 5 or more, raise the score, 4 or less, let it rest. The 3 is gonna stay the same, so I have 300. 6, I look back to the 3, 5 or more, raise the score, 6 or less, let it rest. Looks like the 6 is staying. Then I add those together, and 6 plus 3 is 900. 600 plus 300 is 900, and that is my answer. Now, sometimes that was in the hundreds place. Sometimes we might have to round things in the tens place just to make it more accurate, okay? So we're going to try that now. We're going to use the same problem. And instead of rounding in the hundreds place, now we're going to try it in the tens place. So I'm going to underline my tens place. I'll put my boxes over here. And I'm going to look behind that tens place. We have a 2, 5 or more, raise the score, 6 or less, let it rest. That's going to stay the same. So now I have 340. And now we have the 3, we're going to look behind at the 7. 5 or more, raise the score. 7 is more than 5, so I'm going to raise that to a 4. So 640. And then we add straight down. 0 and 0 is 0. 40 and 40 is 80. And 300 and 600 is 900. Okay? So my answer is about 980, okay? If you turn your page and go on to, we're going to go all the way to the bottom to estimate and then round. Number 1 on the very bottom of the page. Estimate and then round each addend, okay? So it tells you the place value on those problems. So zip down to the bottom there on page 88. And the problem we have is 312 plus 27. And it says to round to the tens. So underneath on the line, you're going to write in your answer when we round to the tens. So to get this all set, I'm going to underline my tens place value, 312. My 2 is going to make that 10 stay the same. So I have 310 plus, look behind, that 7 is going to boost the 2 up to 3 to a 30. So I have 310 plus 30. Well, I can look at this carefully and add my 10s together and get 40. So I have 340 is my answer. Now, if you want to write it again on the bottom, so it's up and down, if this is an easier way to look at it, you sure can. Sometimes I really like to add this way because it just is a little bit easier visually, okay? So that is how you do that. It's very important to look at the place value. Number 2, let's try number 2. Number 2 is the same thing. It gives you a problem, but this time it asks you to round in the hundreds. So we have 383 plus 122. And it says to round to the hundreds. So first thing we're going to do is underline the hundreds place value. So I see that I have a 3 in the hundreds and a 1 in the hundreds. Okay, and then I'm going to round. 5 or more, raise the score. That 8 makes my 3 go up 1 to 400. And then this back one goes up to 100 because, or it stays at 100 because that's a 2. 4 or less, let it rest. And now I have 400 plus 100, which equals 500. Again, if you want to write it vertically, you could even just put the 100 under there and add it like that if you would like. Okay. Numbers 3 through 8 are just like that. Okay, so your assignment is to do page 89, numbers, the whole page. I'm going to go over the other 2 sections with you just to make sure you understand what to do. So let's jump down to number 9. And we need to always make sure we read the directions. And what the directions say there is round each addend to its greatest place value. Round each addend to its greatest, I'm just going to write all the keywords, greatest place value. Okay? And when I round each addend to the greatest place value, what that means, an addend, just to remind you, is the numbers that we're adding together. Okay? So in number 9, we have 35 and 42. We're adding 35 plus 42. An addend that's an addend, and this is an addend. Okay, so when the directions say that, and then when it says to the greatest place value, that means the place value furthest to the left. So on 35, that's going to be the tens place. In 42, that's going to be the tens place because those are the greatest place values. Okay. So we're going to round those and then we're going to add them up. Okay, so we look back at our 5 and say 5 or more, raise the score. 4 or less, let it rest. The 5 is going to boost that 3 up to a 40. This one, same thing, that's going to keep it down because a 2 does not raise the score, it lets it rest. So we have 40 plus 40, which equals 80. Okay, 4 and 4 is 8, and then we have our 0. As I've been saying, you can also put it underneath to add it together. Okay, next let's Let's try number 10 together before we move on. Number 10, we have 455. I'm sorry, 404. Yeah, that's right. 455 plus 229. If I look back at my directions, it asked me to use the greatest place value. So in this case, it's going to be a little different because our greatest place value is in the hundreds place. So I'm going to underline my hundreds place. Look behind, 5 or more, raise the score, 6 or less, let it rest. We have 5 or more. So it's going to boost that 4 up to a 500. And on this case, we have a 2, which is going to let that 2, the other 2 in the hundreds place rest. So we have 500 plus 200, which equals 700. Okay. So you want to finish 9 through 14 on your own. And then if you look down in the chart on the bottom, you're going to be doing 2 problems for every problem. You're going to do one using your rounding skills in the hundreds place, and you're going to do the other one using rounding skills in your tens place, okay? Let's do 15 together so you make sure that you know how to do these. So here's your chart, just like you have in the book. This one size says nearest 10. This side says nearest 100. Okay, and then the problem is over here. So for number 15, we have 133 plus 560. Now there's enough space in there that you could rewrite the problems in each one, so you can underline them and stuff, or you can just leave it here. First, I'm going to do the nearest 10. So I'm going to look at that tens place value. And in the tens place value, I have a 3, looking back on a 3. So that's going to be 130. And I'm going to write that in my box. Then I'm going to look at this one. 6. Oh, that's funny. They already rounded it for us. That one has a 0, so it just stays that way. So we have 560. 130 plus 560. I'm going to add that together, 0 and 0. 6 and 3. 6, 7, 8, 9. Got a 9 there, and 5 and 1 is 6. Then I'm going to use, now I'm going to do the same problem, except for I'm going to round to the nearest 100. So I'm going to look at my hundreds place and look back, and that 3 keeps my 1 at a 1, so I'm going to do 100 plus, I'm going to look at that 5, and I look back at the 6. The 6 is more than 5, so it's going to raise the score up to 600. So I have 100 plus 600, which is 700. Okay, and then you guys can complete 16 and 17 on your own after seeing that example. And that is your lesson on estimating sums. How out? I think I'm out.